how's everyone holding up? Haven't like jumped off a bridge or anything yet, have you?
No, not yet, guys. We've had to do, and we were literally just talking about 15 seconds ago before we started. We're like, right, Jerry's like, we have to press play right now. We have to start recording. We have to go because right now we are dropping from. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an emergency go.
Everything's fine my side. It's been a much more positive week. I'm obviously really tired of this whole story, and it's been rinsed, it's been washed, it's been rinsed again. So much information is floating around. I think there's a ton of it, obviously, as always, because people are quite emotional. But it's been a better week. I mean, I think we're starting to get a little bit of a lie of the land. Wanted to kick it off with just looking at, kind of Bitcoin and ETH from a market perspective, because we haven't actually looked at that. Honestly, I haven't really looked at the charts at all. It's been too busy.
What's a Bitcoins?
I don't know.
Bitcoins.
We're green. Look at that. Look at all the green this morning. Pump it. We've got different charts, mate. Yours is going down. Mine's going up.
Yeah.
You're on the 1 minute.
He's on the 1 minute. That's why. Yeah.
God. Let's have a look at a normal chart.
So my nefarious reasons for wanting to bring up the charts is to start asking the question around, are we at bottom right now, or are we close? I personally think we're close. I've always said between 14 and 16 is going to be bottom. I'm expecting one more leg down, and then I think we crab, maybe have a couple of kind of like fake outs and crab some more, and then start gradually going up again, however long that takes.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll probably get some form of wick down to here, but I think there's probably going to be. Dan, do you have any kind of heat maps or liquidity order book kind of data that? Because I can imagine this is like a big area of interest at like 13,748 region. Not to be like picking numbers out.
That's where people are like doing those little stinky bids, and they're just like letting things sit in there.
Definitely. So, and then let's take a look at ETH as well. I think that's been an interesting one, because ETH was doing really well in relation, because we never saw those June lows the same way that Bitcoin, Bitcoin hit those June lows really hard, whereas ETH hasn't done that, right? Like ETH has managed to avoid that wick there at 800. And it seems to be holding up really strong. There were obviously those rumors going around yesterday that Jump Capital were, because they're such a big holder of ETH, that they were offloading ETH. Maybe they offloaded some of it, but they came out very promptly to put out that fire and say, listen, we're actually fine. There's no issue here. We're interested. We're not going anywhere. And I believe them, to be honest. They're a big operator. They've got serious money behind them. And even if, they obviously were exposed to this whole thing, even if they were in balls deep on this thing, I don't think that this will kill them or take them out of the race. That's my understanding of Jump.
Yeah, because you got to think like Jump's also, when we're at Solana, I was gonna say like Solanathon, when they were at Breakpoint, so they made the announcement that it was Fire Dancer that they're launching as well, which is another type of validator. So for them to start, dumping and offsetting everything, it kind of like wouldn't make sense at this stage. And I think they're going to be such a big player coming out of it with all their different like arms of their business. To dump everything and completely capitulate doesn't really make too much sense. But just going back to, so I've just pulled up the bookmap on for Bitcoin. If you're looking at it, there's big buy. I say big buys. There's 1,310 order in the 12K region. So I really wouldn't be surprised if at some stage that the market makers do just decide to, pull the rug and then just let it wick down and then come back up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
Where would you buy ETH if you were to take a punt?
Well, there was conversation around the 500 to 700 mark, but because Ethereum has shown like really good resilience over this period, which is, let's be frank, this has been without a shadow of a doubt the worst thing that's ever happened to crypto, and ETH has held up probably the best out of everything. I don't know whether that 5 to 700 is on the cards anymore. I think anything below 1,000 at this point in time, I think is a good buy.
Yeah, I agree. And
I want to say there'll be a wick down there, like
June lows. Is that what you're saying?
You could even go as like far as like the 350 mark when you do actually look at it from a TA point of view. Not that TA is really useful in crypto right now because it's just like a load of wickery from the market makers, but there is that chance. I don't know if you guys remember, like ages ago, I think it was on like BitMEX or Bitstamp or one of the bit exchanges, but we were at like, I don't know, 35, 40K in Bitcoin. And then there was like an absolute dirty, naughty wick that wicked right the way down to 8K. Do you remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
So I think there might be some like proper stinky bids of high volume down in that range that the market maker will catch. Because if you can make bank on a quick wick like that, you'll liquidate every single long between here and down there, pick that liquidity up, and then just get back to it. And then it would just be like a load of people posting on Twitter like, oh my God, so-and-so did a wick down to 8K. So I think that could be on the cards, given there's no liquidity in it. If it's hiding down there in the depths, then something could happen. That's my belief anyway.
Yeah, and that ETH Bitcoin chart just looks like it's in a upward channel, really, doesn't it?
I think also what's of big interest from my perspective as well is Solana and how Solana is doing. There's obviously been a lot of talk around Solana, and everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people, well, Solana's done, it's a Sam coin, but what people don't realize is that it hasn't been a Sam coin for a better part of a year plus. This thing really has found its own way around, who Sam is. And I think that a lot of people have written Solana off. And I think that that's a mistake. Just for disclosure, I don't have a Solana position. I'm not looking at a Solana position at the moment. I think Solana has a very good chance of going sub 10 for a while still. I don't think Solana's pains are over. But I do think that Solana will find its own groove and it will find its way eventually, and it will do very well in the future. That's my take on Solana.
I think there's two types of Solana. And hear me out. I think you've got Solana as in the token, which looking at the chart is absolutely useless. And then you've got Solana as the community, the ecosystem, and the actual like tech part of it. I think coin-wise, like why do you need why do you need Solana? What, to validate the network? Okay, cool. We got the big boys doing that. Let's leave them with their big bags or whatever. But I think from an actual ecosystem point of view, and what I've been seeing from like the Breakpoint chat on like Discord and Telegram, everybody's still pumping, everybody's still working hard, everybody's still hustling because they've chosen the network for whatever reason to build on. The builders are going to keep building through this time. A boring bear market is just a builder's market. So I think from a network and an ecosystem point of view, over the next like 6 months, because I think there's a lot of damage done. So it's going to take a while for it to actually get back to, get back above $10 and like stay there for a long time. But I think that side of Solana will do well. It just needs time after the damage that's been done. Coin-wise, whatever. If you've got a bag, send it to like $50 again. If you haven't, send it to zero.
I want to see. I just want to check on its inflation schedule and where we're at with it now. So, all-time high of 259.96. Jesus, those were the days. 71 billion, all-time high. Second supply at the time, 275. Let me just do some quick maths talk between yourselves.
You're about to see some spaceships floating around my head. Maths are okay, but weren't that strong at it.
So again, it's added like 20 million.
20 million, sorry. Yeah.
It's added 20 million in supply, even since this list got made effectively. So, you know, it's whatever the distribution is between there. It's probably at a 30% dilution, maybe like 25, 30. And that was since its all-time high price. So since its all-time high price, you've had 25% more tokens come onto the market, which, you know, not the best.
I mean, to be fair, if I was to punt this, I'd punt it like in Goblin Town, like let's say like $5 or whatever. Hope for the love of God that I buy it right before Google Cloud do it. So when they start buying bags and then validate the network, it pumps. That would be my logic with it.
Yeah, I mean, it still is, like, when was this at all-time high? Probably like 11 months ago. 10, 11 months ago. So, like, over the course of a year, 25% inflation whilst you're getting paid 7 or 8%, I think it is, on staking rewards. So you're still going to get diluted regardless of what you do. And half of it's not dilution, I get that. A lot of it's coming from kind of big unlocks and stuff like that. But, you know, people need to be aware of these things because, like, buy and hold mentality, it's all good trying to be the hero and saying, like, I don't care, I'm a long-term investor with it. But if you're not putting it to work or you're not earning returns on it, you're going to get diluted somewhere along the line unless you've got like a really good tokenomic structure that's very well aligned with the remaining supply that's coming onto the market. So I'll make sure I get these fields updated properly, just indexing some data from CoinMarketCap, and I'll probably re-release this because these all need refilling in because obviously we've seen from this there was like a 20 million more tokens effectively come onto the market. So we need to be aware of it, and more people need to be aware of it. But what's holding up well? Anything at the point?
Oh, Aptos pumped yesterday on the news of a Google partnership. What Google partnership actually means, nobody knows, but it's a partnership with Google, apparently.
Aptos is a piece of shit, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
It is
like,
a piece of shit. There's no doubt about it. It's a piece of shit. It's just a whole lot of dick waving is what that is.
Let me just bring up this. I'm going to plug this article a little bit more, but what people are looking at is like the working draft of like an extensive, non-fluff deep dive into how this whole mess started from the very, very beginning, and we will release this. It will be available for newsletter subscribers. So I've spent about a week on this and probably spend another week on it. So I'm not just going to post it out there immediately for everyone. Anyone who's subscribed to the newsletter will get this as soon as it's available. So you can, it's all the signups and that are in the description. So you can go there and you'll be getting first dibs on the article. But what's important about this and what we're just about to talk about with Aptos. So Aptos Aptos, here they are. So this is a list of fundraising between FTX Ventures and Alameda. The list is got both FTX Ventures and Alameda in here because, as we well know, there's effectively no firewall in between them. So the highlighted ones here that we're seeing are the rounds that either of these two parties have led. So 8th of September 2022, 300 million from Miston Labs, which is Sui, BlockFi, the debt financing 250 million, Voyager 200 million, Aptos 150 million that they led that Series A round. I think they were just lining up these early emerging networks to probably just pull off another like stunt what they tried to do with Solana and completely destroy the ecosystem and builders that actually wanted to create great products over there. And what I've kind of found out with doing all this kind of research is the dynamics of how that would tend to work. And this is relatively known, but there might be a few points that people aren't fully aware of. But projects that were building on Solana, there was a couple that Sam was purely involved with himself. So Serum came out of the FTX camp, and I touched upon this last week. But the way that they raised was like quite ridiculous, where they'd effectively sent out just a Google sheet, effectively. Let me see if I can find what it actually looked like, because I included it here. And it was a Google sheet, and they sent it out to all counterparties that would be interested. And effectively, it just looked like this. So from 1 to 66, each cell would have a different price for the seed round of Serum. So it'd like go up in incremental amounts of $400. So if you were first in, you'd effectively get Serum at seed round buy-in of 50 grand. But by the time you got up to number 66, you're effectively looking at a 50% premium already. So this kind of just clarifies what I was trying to get across last week, is they were sending this out to a lot of investors and VCs and things like that, and they were just trying to get this filled as quickly as possible. So encouraging kind of speed and form over any form of due diligence. So they did that with Serum. Then Maps, Oxy, Feeder were other projects that, again, if you look at their charts, they've all just been down and to the right. And everyone knows what tended to happen, like the FTX curse, like these projects around the time of listing would tend to get listed with perps on FTX. So you can look at it in two ways. It's like, well, if you're a project on Solana, do you want Alameda on your cap table for, one, the notoriety of that, and two, if they're not on the cap table, are you ever going to get listed on FTX if you haven't like succumbed to their wishes effectively? So what I can kind of gather is what projects would do that had these long vesting periods or high inflation, like Serum. I think that was like a 7-year vest, 7-year inflationary rewards. They'd effectively buy the token pre-sale, and then as soon as it listed with perps, they could hedge out the underlying exposure by shorting it. So you're kind of not taking any directional risk on the asset, but the remaining rewards that came onto the market, you could kind of choose what to do with them. So effectively, you're looking at it as like you effectively have farming and dumping your allocation. And then what I've looked a little bit further into is like the Serum market cap was 106 million yesterday, but the fully diluted valuation was 2.9 billion. So with a circulating supply of like 370,000, there was a max supply of 10 million. So when Alameda are marking, they've got $2.9 billion worth or whatever their fraction was of Serum on their book, and then kind of people come in to liquidate those assets, it's like, well, you're going to be waiting a very long time to actually get those and sell them for the market price. So they played this kind of game, and I really suspect by looking at the cap tables and the allocations that they've made recently with Aptos and Sui, they're probably just going to run the same fucking thing. They're probably just going to run the same old tactics, destroy an ecosystem that has huge potential, great infrastructure and tech, play the whole game. If you're not letting us on the cap table, then you're not getting on FTX, and we'll do everything we can to kind of destroy the project. There's a load of really good kind of reputable VCs that have came out and said we've lost a lot of deal flow to Alameda. Basically, it's because people wanted to be tapping into that, have the Sam pump. And what Alameda were also doing was they obviously knew what was going to be listed on FTX. So if you could buy like the likes of Tulip or something like that on Radium, a couple of weeks later when it gets listed on FTX, then you've obviously got an exit liquidity pump there as well. So I think the same thing would have happened to Aptos, which is why I think it's a piece of shit. And I also don't like that where the kind of team have came from with that. I've tried to reach out to them a few times and they just completely disregard anything you try to say. So yeah, I'd assume that they would have went the same way as the majority of DeFi projects on Solana. There are some that I do still kind of think will do well long term. We'll have to see how that plays out. But that's kind of some of the basic investigative work that I've been doing around those shenanigans.
So essentially what they were doing is that they were doing exactly the kind of thing that you trust those kind of people not to do. That's what they were doing from A to Z.
Yeah.
They're all going to jail, bro. I'm telling you right now, there's no ways they're going to get away from this. Feds involved or not, they're going to jail.
You'd like to think so.
I don't think they will. I think there's been so much like big stories in crypto where there's been like epic scams and whatever, and nothing's ever happened. Like, what would make these guys so special that they go to prison?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think with I just think there's, not to be too conspiratorial or anything, but I just think there was like such a bigger plan happening underneath, just with the kind of connections with his political roots and his parents' connections and the whole Gensler thing and the DCCPA and the bill that they were trying to put through, or which looks like it'll go through, which is fucking ridiculous. I don't know. I think they were just trying to monopolize him and use him as some kind of funding source for Democratic Party, effectively.
It's possible. Anything's possible at this point in time. Thoughts around what's been happening on Twitter over the last week, particularly that clown that's been putting up the spaces and giving a platform to pretty much every single scammer and that kind of individual. Thoughts around that?
Just don't really expect anything less, to be honest. Figured out a growth hack. Use it to grow. Probably got something to sell at the end of it.
Yeah.
Just have no kind of shame whatsoever and just kind of do it blatantly, not knowing what you're fucking talking about. And then when people come in and drawing in audiences of that size that they've been getting, fair play to them for doing that. But those aren't the people that you want kind of talking about the space, particularly whilst people have just lost fucking everything.
You've given more information in your 10 minutes of delivery around this thing than they did in a total of 5 days of 12-hour sessions. I'm being dead serious. I'm not just saying that because I think that whole thing was an absolute diabolical joke. It's like you've given more information, and I know that you have. It's like what you gave now they would never have uncovered because they just didn't have. I mean, we had a guy who came on that because I saw stable coins, because obviously we've been working around the stable coin space, and I was interested to hear what the so-called whistleblower. He was labeled an FTX whistleblower. So the FTX whistleblower categorically stated that there's no such thing as a stable coin in the market that's backed 1-to-1. He honestly said that, when we know for a fact that there are a number of stable coin issuers, of which one of them we work with, that very much are regulated, that are very much accountable for being 1-to-1. Yet you've got the so-called whistleblower expert coming on and making statements like that. That in itself, just that one statement alone, is enough to cause a whole lot of harm and a whole lot of misinformation that has no place in the space right now. And that was when I concluded that this is a load of bullshit, and that these kind of forums are actually not a good thing, especially for, a highly complicated and highly in-depth topic like crypto, and especially with this kind of thing going on. There's a responsibility that we have to actually provide accurate information. And when we don't provide accurate information, then we need to be held accountable for it. Whether it means that we've got to apologize, whether it means that we've got to retract, or whether it means that we've got to review what it is that we said, we need to be accountable. These guys are not accountable, dude. Got people asking CZ questions where CZ comes back as a response where he says the moon can disappear. What was that quote?
Yeah, he said anything's possible. Like,
yeah,
the moon could disappear tomorrow.
So you must know, for someone like CZ, who's a very calculated, the dude is a freaking samurai, guys. He doesn't respond without thinking very carefully with what it is that he's going to say. When he's responding to your question with a line like that, then you must know, bro, that you need to actually call it a day and you need to go offline and you need to stop being a so-called, co-host on this so-called like information portal that is your space. That's my rant over on this.
It's given. I mean, if you look at the good, it has brought a lot of people together, but the misinformation that these influencers, the platform they're getting, it's not the right one, because it's giving too many, like, it's giving the last 9 normies who are left here the wrong kind of information. And we know they're the platforms that some of these people have been shilling over like the last few years. And it almost seems like we're very close to maybe going back full circle again, where those like shillers are going to be getting their bags pumped, and they're going to be using those people as exit liquidity. And that's why, like, I know we're on a mission to clean up crypto, and these guys have just made it a little bit dirty. I mean, if you look at it, if you want to take a positive, fair play for him to get some like absolute weaponized names on the actual show. Like, that's been impressive. Like, there's been some big political figures, big voices within the space. So fair play to him on that. But it just re-highlights the wild west nature of crypto, and that crypto is just a scam. And I think that's one of the things that it is starting to highlight even more, which is frustrating.
Yeah, and it's tough, isn't it? Because I think we've tried to be as selective and strict since inception of who we do commentate on, and if we do have any kind of agreements with projects or anything like that, it's like they'll get fully interrogated before we even begin to put a word on a Google Doc sheet. And I don't necessarily think that even comes across these kind of people's minds. Like, imagine if he called out a ticker now, like any ticker, low liquidity, that he'd probably be.
It will go to freaking Alpha Centauri, dude.
Yeah.
The moon won't even feature. It will go straight up.
So it's difficult when we spend all day every day trying to like we never get everything right. Don't get me wrong. Like, fucking hell, like the biggest article ever written was about Wonderland, and look how that fucking turned out. But
I don't know, dude. Wait, hold on a second. Wonderland is still around. Wonderland still has $500 million freaking, no, I think it's $600 million of treasury. Go and check it out. Don't be so critical on what it is that didn't work out for a lot of people, but it's also worked out for a whole lot of people on the flip side. Just for your information. So you don't have a right to bring Wonderland into this.
All right. What I'm trying to get at is the people who are out there, the people who've got their Substacks, the people who are creating, as much as they annoy me a little bit, the threads and all the good kind of informational content that could help an awful lot of people. Vast majority of people don't give a shit about that. They don't. As brutal as this for me to say, and it's bad because that's the business we're in. But those are the kind of people that a lot of projects will kind of look up to and go towards and try and funnel their marketing through those guys, and it's completely undisclosed, and it's again what ends up landing us in these kind of messes that we're in. So it is tough as someone in a team like us that are trying to do it properly in the right way, and it's obviously a lot slower because we don't play those games or anything like that. But it is hard because Twitter's a little bit easier to discern who the good and bad actors are, and I wouldn't say we're 100% good. We swear a lot. We trade shitcoins from time to time, but we're not trying to say we're like these fucking priests, because we're not. We're all complete degenerates. We're just trying to report on what we say. But from the outside looking in, or if you're like new to the space, it is often to discern between those who've got your best intentions at heart and those that are effectively see you as prey effectively. So those are the kind of people that you come up with against in this space. But I don't know, it's just frustrating at times, and You just have to keep going, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, like back in that previous bull run, I got caught up in all the hype of some of those guys that have featured quite heavily on it, and I was trying to follow, I was trying to chase all the coins that they were shilling or whatever. I never really bought any because you had to. This was like when I was really new, you had to like go onto like a different network, and then you had to go and like, I don't know, use a different wallet, and then it's all this like really annoying shit that's is what crypto is. But I got really caught up in the hype in it, and literally like every night I get home from work, I'd flick on the old YouTube, to get a good little bit of banter in, and then I got really caught up in it because the way they portrayed their bags, and it's like, whoa, look at this, these guys. Let me have a look. Whoa, what's this? Then you see it's on like I was saying earlier, a random network. Oh shit, fuck that. But I got really caught up with it, and I can see how people do get caught up in the hype really quickly because they were or what felt like a voice of authority, and what they did really well is make things really shiny. And I think that's why this Spaces in Question has done so well, because they've got the sexy stars on. At the end of the day, do you want to hear about me helping an old deer across the road? Not really. You want to hear about the old with this rumored video that's going to come out at the end of No Nut November with two certain people in a position of power. I hope it comes out December 1st because we're almost through No Nut November. It's great. I'm so stressed.
Yeah, my tenant and No Nut December after watching that. Jesus,
I know. And with all these OnlyFans girls popping up on Twitter all the time. Wow. And you're a DeFi maxi. I'm an NFT maxi. I've subscribed to 6 of them so far, boys. I get a free one every day.
Yeah, I seen someone say there was like 2 images of this like obviously smoking hot girl, and it was like, I'm a forex trader, and then the next image was, and I do OnlyFans. Like fair play.
I think just coming back to obviously the whole Sam thing and the rest of it, and like what really intrigues me about the story is like from the human aspect of we obviously talking about how do we identify the people that don't have your best interests at heart, and the irony of it is that the very core of the story is the fact that we drank the Kool-Aid the same way you drank the Kool-Aid, Dan, and the same way that I've drank the Kool-Aid in the past, and I'm sure Grant has as well, is that we drank the Kool-Aid that was Sam Bankman-Fried. Like he was the and we've said this before, he was the poster child, he was the darling of the space, and we all just said he's amazing, he's taking this thing to the next level, which in many ways he did. Stadium rights, Tom Brady. I mean, the stories just carry on, and it's like, but actually back at the ranch, if we actually like really paid attention to what was going on, and I think a video was posted early on this morning where Tabasco Sauce was actually on up only, and he was talking about running 100x long on Doge, and the worst thing that can happen is that you're going to get liquidated. Like, and they were joking about it. I mean, Kobe was in tears, literally in tears of laughter, not knowing at the time that like this is what was actually really going on. This wasn't a joke. It was like, this is what we're doing, guys, and we don't actually care whether we get liquidated, even though we've heard now that the algo or the algorithm that they were running would not liquidate Alameda's account. I don't know how true that is, but is it possible? Yes. Were they doing it? In light of what we've seen, they probably were, and they probably were never liquidated. But they were running, I mean, like you made the post, Grant. You said, this is like the casino owner playing in their own casino. You made that post, what was it, a year ago, 6 months ago, or whatever the case was.
It's about 6 months ago, I think.
Yeah. And that they could see everything. They could see, imagine playing a poker game where you could see everyone's cards. Hold on a second, that did happen. I was playing poker professionally at the time when the Ultimate Bets scam came out. What happened was there was this online website, poker site called Ultimate Bets, and they created accounts where they were called guard accounts that could see everyone's table on a ring table. So if you were sitting at a table with 6 people, and you had a guard account, you could see everyone's hands. Plain and simple. That's what they had built in. And guess who the guy was that was involved in that whole ultimate bets is a guy by the name of Friedberg or something like that.
Daniel Friedberg, yeah.
Which is something that BitBoy has been raving on about. And he is correct, by the way, as much as it pains me to say that. But Friedberg was involved in the ultimate bets thing, and he was involved with FTX. I mean, it's no surprise that was implemented into their mode of business. I mean, it's the perfect story, right? I mean,
it's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? I'm going to pull up a tweet, and my thoughts around it aren't baked, so we can probably go through the tweet. Let me just see if I can find it. 2 seconds. Right, here it is. It's fucking brilliant. Brilliant thread. So let me just share this. Right, sharing, aren't we? Yeah. So it goes on to say, like, FTX have $8 billion hole in the balance sheet based on liquid assets. Absolute insane number in theory. I have a theory how it got to that big. FTX liquidation engine broke, leaving them and Alameda with huge losses. So if anyone's ever seen the photo of Sam and Arthur, where they're looking at each other quite, I don't know what the context was, but like there is kind of anecdotes saying that Arthur said, "You'll never build a liquidation engine as good as me," effectively, and everyone used it as a meme to say, like, "Oh yeah, Alameda and FTX have created this like fucking amazing liquidation engine." But like at the same time, if anyone actually used that, particularly with size, they'd also see that Alameda liquidations were a complete joke compared to all other exchanges over that specific kind of wick or over that specific day of trading. So this Westy Capital goes on to say, my original speculation, and likely the same thought as others, is that the large hold came from bad trades from Alameda. Yeah, we all know that. That's pretty standard. However, the reported 10 billion seems too high for bad trades alone. Most of their strategies were delta neutral yield farming or low risk directional bets. I don't think that's true. I can say why that is, because they were delta neutral till around like 2019, and in one of Sam Trabuco's threads, it says we got really long in 2020. So effectively, the lower risk delta neutral strategies completely went out the window in like 2020 and got long, which they kind of should have, because the markets were completely about to rip, and they were performing well before the COVID crash and all that kind of thing. So that's a little bit wrong. They weren't, and delta neutral yield farming doesn't really add up unless you're pulling off really complex strategies like the likes of gamma swap and that are building at the minute. So I don't think, based on the competency of what we've seen over the past few months, in that statement that you made, Jedi, about them just going fucking 100x balls long, I don't think that's what they were doing at all. So I think that's a little bit wrong. But anyway, I'll get onto it. So Westy's theory is that the whole was a result of mishandled liquidations on FTX. Big cascading liquidation events could very easily cause an extremely big hole in short amount of time, especially with the way that the liquidation engine was designed. But I thought the FTX liquidation was well known for being extremely robust, especially compared to that of other exchanges. How is this possible, and how was Alameda involved? The current liquidation docs hide behind obfuscation and extremely complex explanation of how the liquidation engine works. So they had this great product that they were shouting from the rooftops about, but no one necessarily knew how it works. He said, however, an old article from the FTX blog had a better explanation in plain English. If there's a larger liquidation, this is a quote from the early blog, if there's a large liquidation, say a long position that needs to get sold off, the markets are moving too quickly, normal liquidation orders in the FTX books are unlikely to successfully close down the position before going bankrupt. Okay. In that case, the backstop liquidity provider system kicks in. Liquidity providers that have opted into the system will internalize the position that's underwater, taking over the whole obligation and collateral. They will then go hedge their books on other venues. So he says, if there are traders with a huge price gap while holding the position is now given to the backstop liquidity provider, the hedging cost and debt incurred should be handled by the backstop liquidity insurance fund. So know this is a bit long-winded, but it's I think it's really important. So, well, who are the backstop liquidity providers in this situation? If anyone hadn't like put their hand up and shouted Alameda, then you've got the attention. And who operates the insurance fund, FTX, which we all know is essentially one of the same. The reasons the liquidation engine was touted as being special was because it led to much tighter spreads and better liquidity than other exchanges, utilizing Alameda as the backstop. Third-party market makers no longer had to worry about liquidation risk via toxic flow. So if Alameda were backstopping every single liquidation and they were supposed to be hedging out the debt incurred and risk on additional exchanges, the third kind of goes into it, and it's very obvious to say that they might not have had directional exposure to Luna or UST in and of itself, but if they were opted into this liquidation backstop program on FTX, and we all know what happened with Luna, did it effectively mean that they were left holding the bag on like a colossal scale?
Probably.
You know what I mean? So that's where I think there's a big gap that comes into play. And we'd probably have to look at volume traded on FTX compared to how much was completely wiped out on Luna, but it could kind of begin to add up. And then that thread that we brought up the other week with regards to the FTX backstop, kind of digging Alameda out of the shit. That's just kind of where the thread goes into. So like he goes on to say Luna and UST, I'm sure having an all-time high of 600 million in liquidations on October 25th was an even further blow to their liquidity. So as I say, that's probably how they got out of people checking the chain, pointing at everyone else who got wrecked, but no one thought to look and call out who was holding the bad debt incurred on FTX, because it was obviously not as transparent if it's getting run on a derivatives exchange. Do you know what I mean? So that's probably how they got around one being called out for getting fucked off Luna the way everyone else did on chain because they were using Anchor and UST. And probably how they convinced people that they could actually acquire BlockFi and who's the other one?
Celsius.
Yeah.
Yeah. But look at what the Wolf posted. The Wolf, once again, hits the nail on the head. Today was the single largest liquidation event on FTX in its history. And the runner-up isn't even close, 600 mil. Someone got carried out on a stretcher, and then way he finishes it off seems excessive given the move. But then again, there's like only 12 people who understand how their liquidation engine works. The Wolf knows his stuff. In terms of the layers, in terms of the layers of this machinery, I don't think anyone knows it as well as he does, like on a broad scale.
I'd put like Hasaka and GCR up there as like the Dons. Probably played the cycle as well as anyone else.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So yeah, that was that, and that's where I think obviously it's stemmed from. And Dan, I think you even said like that 600 million seems fucking ridiculously high, and you wonder if it's like some fuckery to get additional capital from market makers. So that could have been an attempt to that. I know you said that like 2 or 3 weeks back, because this was posted on 26th of October, so that like aligns well with what you said back then.
Jesus. Mate,
so it all just adds up, doesn't it, after the fact? Like
it's mental. Like all the warning signs were there. Like these like gigabrain tweeters were like presenting it, but because a lot of it was gigabrained, or it was encoded in, and I think we all do this on Twitter, like badly written tweets. Like we love the boys, but like hello, all these like silly little tweets or whatever. I think things got missed. I think one of the biggest warning signs was when old boy Sam, he moved him and 10 of his mates to a big mansion over in the Bahamas, and then he only drives a Corolla. And I thought that was a bit weird. Like, I mean, I love my friends back home, but I wouldn't like want to live with all 10 of them in like a little, condo in the Bahamas.
It's all right for a week.
That to me is a bit weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
totally weird.
It's just that quote from The Big Short, isn't it? While the whole world was having a big old party, a few outsiders and weirdos saw a giant lie at the heart of the economy, and they saw it by doing something that the rest of the suckers never thought to do. They looked.
Wow.
Man, this Michael Lewis book is going to be fucking fantastic.
He followed him around for 6 months, didn't he? I mean, and he even made the comment, "It looks like I have my ending."
I really hope that Adam McKay directs it, because he did just such a fantastic job of like where he was explaining like collateral debt obligations with like Margot Robbie in a bathtub and things like that. I mean, I hope hopefully they can recreate that scene with it explaining fucking yield farming or something.
What, in terms of like one of the orgy sessions, like a bit of coke on the table, and like Caroline flops into the chair naked and wired to the hilt, and then makes a comment like that. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do on Avalanche now? Are we going to like just dump Joe whilst taking a big old snort of white line? I think that would be such an epic scene.
I found that you know that anecdote I said to you last week about. Oh no, that's not it. But come on. What I said about the yield farming, I said it last week, but this is from CryptoFish from April the 12th, 2022. And everyone knew Alameda was mercenary farming Joe to complete death. And again, like, kudos to Trader Joe, because they stood their ground with them. They had to survive Wonderland. They had to survive a load of other shit as well. So I think they'll come out of this like on top. Obviously, their inflationary tokenomics don't do them any favors, but you know they're innovating, like liquidity books out.
That looks really cool.
Like they've just raised 5 million for Joe Pegs and stuff. So like I absolutely love these guys and couldn't speak highly enough of them. And so if anyone who's just listening, it says CryptoFish, the co-founder of Trader Joe, said a while ago we had a conversation with the Alameda guys, and their intro message was basically, GG for surviving us farming you for months. PS, do you need some market making services? Don't know whether to feel proud or shocked, lol. Was comical nonetheless. That was from April 2022. So I've included that in the article as well, because I thought it was fucking.
That's the clue,
one of those
right?
things you remember. You know, like when something really stands out and you remember it.
That's the clue, though. That for me was the clue quote that set the precedent for my perspective on what it is that they were doing on all ecosystems, on all yield tokens. I mean, this is what they did, right? They decimated. The fact that they are in that $8 billion hole, there's only one real solid explanation, and that is that insurance liquidation engine that obviously let them down in the end. I'm sure of it.
This brings back to my point. Look at how tongue-in-cheek that is. Like, totally. That is actually, when you break it down, that is actually quite a serious tweet. But the fact it's just done so like, and this is one of the problems in crypto. Like, you've got this big hint that something is going on, but it's just like, well, not sure whether to feel proud or shocked. Lol. But it's like, they're screaming like, bruh, I'm dumping my bags on you. Like, GG for surviving. Like, that's huge, man.
Yeah, you've got to think, like, the way that like the Trader Joe platform worked at the time was obviously people could come, deposit liquidity, farm Joe, or use like Banker Joe and lending and borrowing platform. And if these guys never necessarily had any real equity or real cash flow, they would have had to use their own token to, you know, to keep like the operation alive. Do you know what I mean? If that's how they were like doing it, and if done correctly, I think it's really good. Obviously you get some people who are fucking idiots and just like take the piss a bit and like sell way too much token. But if they were like, they're slowly selling to keep the project alive, I think that's net positive for the project. So every time Alameda were coming along, probably owning 20, 30, 40, 50% of specific liquidity pools. So every time that the next emissions of Joe came and got directed towards that liquidity pool, they were getting 20, 30, 40, 50% of those rewards. And if they're taking them onto the market and dumping them in like 100K fucking lots, do you know what I mean? It's like these people are trying to do something net positive for the space, trying to keep the lights on effectively. I think they've been a little bit more successful than that, but you're just like taking a big fucking shit on whatever they're trying to do because you can, do you know what I mean? And someone was going to do it, but I don't think they were going to do it at the same size as Alameda were. They were just taking the piss.
The question now is, does someone replace them to that capacity?
There will always be a big fish. Who it is, don't know.
I don't think there'll be a big fish for about 2-3 years.
Yeah.
What about CZ?
I think CZ's got he's already doing his thing. The dude is probably the most effective printing machine on the planet at the moment, and he will continue to do so. I mean, I think he's going to benefit out of this thing in the medium to long term. The dude is playing the game better than anybody else. He was the one who alerted everyone to what was going on at the end of the day. I mean, sure, Congress is trying to blame him now. I mean, it's so funny, isn't it? Like, it's all your fault. It's all your fault, bro. No, bro. I just let everyone know what these guys were doing for so long. That's all I did.
They'll just frame it as a US national security issue, as they always do.
Yeah.
Probably get banned off YouTube for that now. Might cut that out. Anywho,
but yeah, I think he's the big player right now, and he's just going to get bigger. And Sam had an opportunity to do something great here, and it's lost, irrespective of how much money they might have walked away with this thing. Because I have no doubt that there's a lot of money that's gone under the table, and now it's on to the next thing. The silver lining, that's the last part of today's show, is the silver lining is that there's a lot of cool projects going on out there, guys. Like, really, we've said this before. We've spoken about it. We've been working with a number of these projects. We've been getting insight into stuff. Stop looking at what's going on around you in terms of trying to make money in the markets right now. Go out there, do your research. Look at what's happening. There's some fucking good projects, like really, really good stuff happening. And the money's not going to be made with what's on the table at the moment, in my opinion. It's what's coming. So if you want to get in on what's coming, then you need to get out there and research. By all means, let's wallow in the whole FTX thing, but that's not where we're going to make our money.
Should we just bring up Genesis for a minute? I think it'd be silly not to. Yano from...
Tell us the relevance of why the Genesis thing is such a big deal.
Well, I couldn't put it better myself. Like Yano from Blockworks, he's this thread was as clear as day, effectively. It just goes into like how Genesis is part of DCG, which is Barry Silbert's holding company. They also own CoinDesk, so this like might have been a little stab from Yano here as the competitor of Blockworks, but that's fine. They own Foundry, Genesis, Grayscale, and Luno. They also have a VC firm, but they were saying like Genesis were moving some serious capital. Like the Q4 numbers, 50 billion in loan originations, 12.5 billion in active loans, 31 billion in spot volume, and 21 billion in derivatives traded. So like their size is size. They did get stung by the whole 3AC charade. I think they'd lent out like 2.4 billion according to Wall Street Journal as well, which is, never good. Yeah, that's again, size. Like you don't just like scratch that off as if like and yeah, it's like Q3 the numbers had fallen drastically. 8.4 billion in loan originations. Sorry, put my teeth back in. 2.8 billion active loans. 18.7 billion in spot volume. So they're still doing, again, like fucking ridiculous numbers. I think like the Genesis Earn program was effectively the Gemini Earn platform was using Genesis on the back end. So that got halted this week as well. So, and they'll take a cut or take a sliver of whatever they've earned on that and then distribute the remaining to customers who were using the Gemini Earn product. But again, it's like, I think they're seeking like $1 billion in like emergency funding. Don't know who else is counterparty to Genesis. And if you look at like some of the loans and things that they had outstanding, again, it's just contagion after contagion, but this is probably such a big epicenter of that. It's something that you seriously need to keep an eye on. Hopefully, like Watcher Guru posted, they're seeking out $1 billion emergency loan by Monday. So again, over the weekend, I can't imagine we'll hear too much, but Monday as markets open again, we're probably going to find out a little bit more.
Do you think this is the last capitulation that's needed?
I don't know.
Or do you think this, if they go down, that wrecks the space for a lot longer than it's going to be wrecked for now?
I think they'll be all right. I think Barry can pull it around. I think GBTC is trading at like a stupid discount, like 40% discount or something at the minute as well. So he hasn't had the greatest year himself, but I don't know. It's just something you need to kind of keep an eye on. And if people are trying to play the markets now, whilst I have heard anecdotes of, we should try and get someone who works at an OTC desk to come on, because I've heard anecdotes of OTC desks getting inundated with like large sells of quite exotic tokens. And that seems to be all that's coming down the pipe for them at the minute. So, yeah, just be careful. You know what people do? They'll start printing in lower highs and things like that, and draw as much liquidity in the market as that's left, and inevitably we all know what happens when those kind of things start happening.
Well, we can't end on a negative like that. I've got one question for you guys. In the movie that's going to be coming out of this FTX debacle, who plays Sam and who plays Caroline?
Well, if you get me on like an amphetamine drip, I'll play Sam.
You just want the amphetamine, don't you? That's all it is. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably enjoy getting like fat as fuck as well. But I'm not doing it on soy burgers, like all like plant burgers. I'll go full method and start like yield farming on Trader Joe, and like, you know how Christian Bale does for like the Machinist or Batman. I'll just get really into character and start posting like ridiculous, like egocentric tweets and stuff like that. So no one's safe.
Who do you want?
I am the reckoning.
Who's your Caroline?
Oh, I don't know. Who do you think? Like, in all seriousness, Michael Sierra could play him. Jonah Hill could probably play him.
I would want to see. Okay, this is going to get real weird. Who's the guy from Tenacious D?
Jack Black.
Yeah, I want to see. Okay,
I
want to see
Jack Black would play a good Sam. Actually, you're right.
Jack Black, and I would want to see Margot Robbie as his Caroline. Now, is that weird?
No, I've heard. Actually, who's the guy who did Mark Zuckerberg in Social Network? Jesse Eisenberg or something. Well, let me bring this up.
Jedi, who are your two?
I don't actually have any. I asked this question on Twitter and I just couldn't like impose that upon anybody. I don't know. I know it's strange, but I think Jack Black is actually a really good choice, to be honest.
Yeah, but can he play serious roles?
Absolutely, he can.
Mate, is SBF a serious play? No.
Jesse Eisenberg.
I think Jack Black's a really good actor. I mean, I think he could pull it off quite easily. I think who would be like a really good Tabasco would be, what's his name?
Oh
that's actually that could work.
There's Tabasco.
There's Tabasco. Yeah, that's Tabasco, right?
Who else could play him? I don't think Jack Black could play him. He's too old.
Yeah, he is.
Who'd play Caroline?
Or Keira Knightley.
Just as a newsflash, Caroline is not the most attractive girl. Yes, there we go.
No, you're not. You're not going to ruin Arya Stark for me. She is not playing Caroline because she will be remembered as Caroline. Mate, I don't ruin that fantasy for me, mate. Not having that.
I don't know. I think Jesse Eisenberg has like The Social Network was fucking wicked, wasn't it? But I don't know if that's too similar tech kind of roles. I don't know. It's I hope Adam McKay does it because it'll be fantastic. Could even be a good series. To be fair, it's that long.
Well, Adam, if you're watching this, here's a good list of people to cast. You're welcome.
Yeah, there we go. Just did his work for him. But yeah, newsletter's in the description. Do all the like and subscribe stuff. We're starting to get some nice traction on that. There's a lot of good interviews that we did the past week. There should be a Metis one that Jedi did coming out soon. Cantor and Clark one's up there. On-Chain Wizards up there. Cantor and Clark's in a two-parter because I don't know why we did that, but we did it anyway. And keep an eye out for next week. There might be something coming.
There might be something coming. We've also got, we've got quite a few interviews. We kind of held back on content this last week because there was this storm that was obviously brewing and happening. So we'll be back next week. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool projects out there, and yeah, don't get too depro, guys. I mean, I know that a lot of you got caught with FTX, but you made it before. You're going to make it back. I have no doubt you guys can do it. Just look towards that. And for what it's worth, sorry that you guys got hit. But like I said, you're going to make it back.
It's Friday. You can go and have some like fancy cocktails with all the little umbrellas and that in. So,
mate, you're going to go meet the 3AC guys. You're on the hunt for them in Bali. Let's go.
Before we leave, I can't believe we left this out. What's up with those two boys? They're back, bro. Those two boys are back.
They're planning a
comeback, bro. Like, we forgive them.
No.
I ain't forgiving those dudes, bro.
No. They caused this fucking mess.
They were big ups on it. They're trying to like pass the blame. Now you see how they like reposting strategic posts. Like Suzu, we see you, bro. We see you. We see what you're doing, bro. It's not gonna work. You're not gonna use Sam as your scapegoat. You had your chance, bro. You had your chance more than once to stop it, and you just carried on because you loved it so much. You loved it, bro. You loved it.
Leverage.
Leverage, degeneracy, I want more.
And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe.
Right, take it easy.